Well, hello, folks, and welcome to the Dieter Melhorn Fishing Podcast. I hope you're having a good day, whatever day it is that you happen to be listening to the show. Today, I've got an awesome guest that I finally pinned down to do a podcast with me at CatCon in 2025, and that's Chris Souders. If you don't know who he is, you need to check out his YouTube channel, Slunger Cats, and he's got some great content on there. He's a guy that was on the Catfish tournament scene for a long time. Won a lot of tournaments, won a lot of money, won a lot of points races. Really good at what he did. He's kind of transitioned over now, does a lot more of the YouTube social media content, and also has a tackle business. He's selling stuff, some of the Slunger Cat brand, some of the rigs, some hats, that kind of thing. So be sure to check that out. I'll put you links to all this down in the description where you can find him and everything that he does. But I finally got him to sit down, and I'll be honest with you, this is probably the most candid, just honest confessional from Chris that I've seen done. And I'll be honest on this. I've always thought Chris was a little too politically correct. He was kind of stale in his delivery of stuff. There was not anything that really endeared you to him and his personality, a personality that is wonderful. And I feel like he's going more in that direction, which I think is wonderful for him. It makes him a lot more relatable, connectable, and I think this podcast and what he had to say and what we talked about and his openness, I think, does nothing but increase his brand, his value, and it lets you, as a viewer who may not know him, know what a good person he is and what a great person he is. And I really enjoyed this one. This was a good one. I got a lot of good ones at CatCon this year, and this was one of them. So I'm excited to show it to you. It's a little bit of a long one. It's about almost an hour, so make sure you got a good hot cup of coffee when you sit down to watch this one, or a good cold drink, and sit back and enjoy this podcast with Chris Souders.
So, Chris Souders, and it's not Sounders, as I always give him a hard time about. What's your story, man? Take us back to your first fishing memory.
Man, you are the only person to have ever asked me this, and this is the second time. And every time I talk about it, it almost makes me cry, you know.
I cried in my last podcast. It's okay.
Well, I'd definitely go back and watch that because I want to see it.
Yeah,
I never thought the day I'd see Dieter Melhorn cry.
Yeah.
But no, my one of my first fishing memories would be with my grandfather at the lake that I live 2 miles away from now.
Still there. Wow.
Still there. I actually live on the property that my grandparents was on. And it's just, fishing with him, going to creeks and catching bait, going to the lake. And then, past that, just fishing with him and my dad, bluegill fishing or whatever you could catch. And then, whenever I was growing up, we done a lot of jug fishing. And that I can remember that just being exciting because you watch that jug bobbing down through the lake. And then, you went and got it. And we didn't keep everything that we caught, but we'd always keep a few and fry them up. And, I'm a true believer in the catch and release, but I'm also a true believer in the catch and fry.
Catch and grease.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I asked people that first fishing memory, how'd they get in the fish and all that. It's a very similar story for most of them. I'm going to find me an urban angler at some point that bought one at a store down the street and went fished in a sewer drain or something at some point. But most of the stories start out similar. It's a memory fishing with a parent, a grandparent, usually humble beginnings. Very few people, nobody that I've interviewed said, I jumped on my dad's $90,000 Ranger and, we hit it first class. Do you think there's something to that as far as just that simple part of it that endears you to it early on?
I think that as fishing grows, there's a huge need, and it doesn't have to be a father or a grandfather, but it needs to be people like you, people like me, to be that father figure in these young gentlemen or young ladies' lives to give them something to look forward to instead of stealing or drugs or alcohol. You know, I'm a very faith-based person, and when you are able to change a young person's life by a memory, by a story, those are things that you can never forget. And by no means did I come from a place where I was perfect or that I am perfect now. At one time I was, you know, an alcoholic. You know, at one time I tried drugs. And if it wouldn't have been for those father figures in my life and God, I don't know where I would be. You know, I may not have the great opportunity to sit here and talk to you about life, and hopefully somebody out there is watching. Please understand, if you have trouble, do not feel like you can't reach out. I am no different than anybody else, and would love nothing more than to talk to you about what God has done in my life and what God can do in your life.
And that's a good point, because men, I had this conversation with somebody outside the fishing world. What is that saying? Men live a life of quiet frustration, feeling that they've never done quite what they should. Men live a life, and there's women that watch this too. Ladies, if anything, it's an education about the man in your life, whether it be father, you know, husband, whatever, is that men ain't real good at when something's got you beat down to go talking about it, because culturally it's kind of a you know, you tough it out, get over it,
Get over it,
what's
rub
going
some
on.
dirt
But yeah,
on it.
you got a good point there. I mean, it is, and that's one thing about the community. You know, there's a community of fishing online. There's, you know, Kevin's done a great job with the online tournament stuff. There's just a fishing community. There's the community that we have, you and I have in our social media with people. And we do have, and totally unplanned, as I'm sure it was for you, this opportunity to reach people with stuff like that.
That's right.
And deliver a message to them, no matter what it is, whether it be about faith or just, you know, if they're down, beat down, suicidal, whatever, is that, dude, you can make it through this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting. When did you, like you said, alcohol? That's interesting, because from that I went in a deep dive in this, and I want to get a psychiatrist on here to talk about this. With alcohol, drugs, nicotine, sex, pornography, all these addictions, they attach to synapses in our brain that stimulate dopamine. Coincidentally, the same thing happens with fishing.
Absolutely.
And hunting, playing basketball. It's interesting how that works. And I don't want to get in a deep dive in this. I'm going to do this in a podcast at some point. This is probably not the place for it. But to your point about just having something to connect to, that's one of the, like, you know, people say fishing's not always about catching fish. That's kind of one of the little other things out there. Absolutely. That it is. So, did you see a shift in those connections with fishing when you changed the direction of your life?
So my biggest, I guess, swing would have been, you know, kind of whenever I got married. I always fished, and I always loved to hunt, and some of those things I had to detach myself from, because it included the alcohol, you know, some of the people that I were around. You know, I had to kind of cleanse myself from those. But, you know, when my wife came into my life, I met her at a bar, and she got drugged there by one of her friends that she'll probably kill me for saying this story.
Leave it to Dieter to bring out the untold stories.
Yeah, absolutely. But she got drugged there by, you know, one of her friends to come. Her friend was coming there to meet one of my friends, and they actually joked, well, we'll introduce her to Souders, because, you know, he's going to mess it up. And so we got there, and sure enough, they introduced us, and at the time I had a mohawk, and I was riding street bikes.
Do we have pictures of this anywhere?
Lord, no. And you know, she walked in, and it was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. And I looked at her, and I knew myself that I needed to change. And I said, would you like to sit down and have a real conversation? And she laughed about it, and she's like, yeah, you know. And I said, how about I take you out to dinner tomorrow night? And she laughed about it and said, sure, why not? Well, I showed up. And that day, I woke up and I was like, you know what? I can't take this lady out with a mohawk. So I got rid of it. And we sat down at a restaurant, had the best conversation, and started dating. Several months after that, a few months after that, we got married, and now we have 2 beautiful kids, a life, and she's changed me. She's got me, you know, at that time I wasn't in church. I believed, and I knew that the things that I were doing were wrong, but one day she's like, I'm going to church, and I was like, yeah, you go on, you know. And then she went, and I just kept feeling a gravitational pull, and I went with her. And shortly after that, going a few times, man, I come home, and we're sitting at the house, and knock on the door, and here come the preacher, and it changed my life. Wow. You know, and through that, I mean, I've seen God heal cancer in my wife. Both of our kids are adopted, and you know, we weren't able to have kids because of some of her medical conditions. Our little girl, when we adopted her, we was going out with our other friends and family, and she's like, Daddy, you know, when are you going to have me a baby brother or sister? And I didn't have the heart to tell her that we couldn't have kids. And deep down inside, I'm like, you know, I felt like she would never have a brother or sister. And she started praying herself at night for specifically a baby brother. And it was almost 9 months or 10 months or 11 months, I can't remember how many months it was, from the time she was praying to the time we got a call. We had let our foster care license go. We were not looking. We were not asking. And we got a call from Children's Services asking if we would like to come pick up her biological baby brother.
See, and I've said this before. Okay, I know some people don't have strong faith, any faith, many are not believing God. But coincidence, if you want to call it that, it's God's way of hiding the miracle. And that's a heck of a story. That's a heck of a story.
I told her that shortly after that, I said, no more praying for kids. I said, we're done.
Yeah, God says ask exactly for what you want. So, I mean, yeah, be careful with that. But don't pray for that one anymore. How was, you've talked publicly about your wife's cancer struggle.
Yeah.
What is that like to go through in the middle of all this, especially, I didn't know your kids were adopted.
Yeah.
That's another different dynamic to go through that probably with less faith would have been tough. Yeah.
It's definitely not easy, you know, but at the beginning, whenever I was running tournament series and tournament trails really, really hard, is whenever she got pancreatic cancer. And, you know, this is kind of at the beginning of God challenging my faith. And I honestly, I was mad. I was mad at God, and I was like, how can you let something like this happen? And in return, God was just like, you need to put your faith in me. And finally, you know, Jenny and I, we surrendered to that. And he you know, started healing. And, you know, as he took pancreatic cancer away, and then it come to her liver. You know, we struggled with that, and it's been in different parts of her body. And, you know, I believe that she'll always have to fight it. But there's peace in knowing that not only do we believe that God can heal and God can protect us and our family, but it takes that burden of worry that we have a whole family that supports us and believes the same thing we do and is there for us for everything. And God will put those people in your place and protect you.
So you were fishing seriously when this
Yes.
happened.
Absolutely.
I've always wondered, what it would be like to face something like that, because it's got to be depressing.
Mm-hmm.
Does it take the fun out of the fun of fishing? I mean, are you kind of not as you're not? I mean, it's got to be hard to find a dopamine high, something that just back to that thing of, man, I'm going fishing when you're beat down by something like that weighing on you.
It gave, fishing at that time, I 24 hours of the day, I thought about Jenny and what was going on. And then, but for those hours of the weekend, that I was fishing, I knew that Jenny was okay and she supported everything that I was doing. And it gave me the opportunity to, just kind of forget, because I was focused on something else so hard. And, I think it was God's way of saying, a lot of people ask me, why do you fish so much by yourself? And why do you enjoy that? And it's my time to go out and I can think about things and release things and just kind of get away from the hustle for just a moment. Mm-hmm. and kind of clear my mind and get mentally right. Because,
right.
In life, if you're not mentally right, it's hard to live.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was my kind of getaway, my get out of jail free space.
Yeah. That's good for you, because I'm the same way. I love fishing alone. There's a lot of prayer, thought, time, pondering goes on out there. But I can't imagine having a spouse that has really, I mean, it could be something even less. I mean, I know my wife, kidney stones. It's not cancer, but it's she's got them bad. And I'm so distracted by that. If she has a flat tire that needs to be fixed, I get so hyper focused on, I got to fix that. And it was like with the kidney stone, you can't fix it. It's out of your control. You got to put that in somebody else's hands. Doctor, God, whatever it is. And yeah, it's got to be tough. I commend you for staying in the sport, quite honestly, because a lot of people will give up on whatever they love. I've heard people giving up on golf, because of stuff like that to happen and stuff. Now, where were you at tournament-wise fishing during this time? Was that on the backside of when you were doing tournaments? Because I want to talk about some of that world.
Yeah, so that was kind of, I don't want to say at the beginning, but it was kind of like right whenever I was coming up and doing really well. And then there was a time frame where things got, I don't want to say worse for her, but things got rougher. And I did lose my focus on fishing. And in the tournament world, I seen it. My results weren't as good. And then my, just your focus in life wants to change. What you want to do in life wants to change. And so that was kind of, I would say 18 as whenever I kind of started getting it in my head. Well, I think that I am just about done with tournament fishing, and I want to go a different direction. And I didn't really know what that direction was, so we just kind of started trying to figure that direction out, I guess, is
right.
However you want to say it.
So, and to that, what got you into fishing tournaments? Because I've got, a lot of the people that watch my channel are not big into tournament fishing. They're more, I'll say, a casual angler. They may have an interest, but what drew you into that direction doing that?
So, when I was younger, I raced motocross, raced quads, had a best friend.
That's where the mohawk came from.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that side of me, Dieter. They see this side of me, and
that's why I'm here.
This is what I like them to see.
Dr. Phil. That's why I'm
here. Dr. Phil in it. But I love to race. I am a very competitive person. If it doesn't matter. If you say, let's do this. Even at 230 pounds right now, if somebody wanted to race me, I'd try to race them, And, but, that's a young man's sport. And I started getting hurt, couldn't keep up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this. But I needed something to fuel that fire. And me and my best friend was out there fishing, and we always fished. And he's like, man, you want to fish a tournament? I'm like, catfish tournament? was like, yeah. Like, I didn't know there was such a thing. And so
And you're how old at this time?
early 20s, you know, I'd say early 20s, whatever that would be. So we entered a catfishing tournament. It was a high heels catfishing club. And man, we're out there and like they say go and everybody takes off. And I'm like, heck yeah, you know, and
Outrun 'em.
you know, we're jumping waves and both of us are smiling, you know, grinning ear to ear, and we're like, I like this. And man, that year it just took off. I mean, we're like, we want to do this, and that's what got us started.
And that just kept, like a lot of tournament people, more of it, intense, bigger. And then you got into the bigger national tournament scene with what was then Cabela's King Cat.
Yeah. So we done that for several years, and just the challenge of figuring out preparing beforehand, going to that water, breaking it down, and then seeing your results at the end, versus 20, 30, 40, 50 other, you know, competitors, was that drive that I needed to continue it. And I wanted to just go better and better and better. So I kept pushing myself each and every day to learn something, to break down water, learn how to break down water before you ever got there. You know, the whole thing with 90% of the fish live in 10% of the water. If there's nobody out there that believes it, get used to it, because that is 100% the truth. Now that 10% will change day to day, but it's always going to be 90% and 10%.
Yeah. How consuming is that because again, you can go fish your fruit jar tournaments, you can have fun with it, you can go home, not worry about it until next month. How consuming is it to win a points championship, to stay dedicated to do that?
It's hard. It's a lot. It's engulfing. I mean, it will consume you. I'll put it to you this point. One of my first boats, my first motors on a boat, got looked at to see how many hours, and there was like 700 and some hours. Well, out of that 700 and some hours, like 500 hours was less than 2,000 RPM, because all I did was look. I would get glued to that screen and I would not stop. I would go days, and at that time I could. Now I couldn't, but I would go days at 3.5 to 4 miles an hour until I found exactly what I wanted to see. And then once I found that, I was good, you know. And but it would literally days and nights, it would consume you.
And then having something like a sickness in the family, that's gotta rip at your focus.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened whenever, you know, I was up on top, cloud 9, you know, and then things got a little rougher, and then that's kind of whenever your focus goes. It naturally is going to, you know, you got to take care of your family.
Absolutely.
You got to do, you know, you got a kid.
God, family, work, fishing.
Yeah.
Even though work and fishing compete pretty close sometimes.
I'll never forget this, and this is a regret that if somebody's out there is young and you got kids and your focus is not on that child or your wife, this may be conflict with some, but this is my belief. It's God, your wife, and your kids, because once your kids are grown up and going, it's just you and your wife and God. But your kids need to have a good father figure. And I'll remember my little girl till the day I die. She looked at me, and I was getting ready to leave town for a national tournament. She said, "Daddy, when are you going to be home?" And Dieter, that was it. Yeah. That was it. I on the road trip to where we was going, I looked at my partner, and both of us were in the same situation, and we're like, this is it. And stepped away from Cabela's, or the national tournament trail, and honestly, it was one of the best things I ever done.
Yeah, I say the same thing because I get on the road a lot in the fall doing some of the stuff we're doing, and we just got back. I've got a daughter that's doing cheer. My son does cheer. We're at a cheer competition, last week in Atlanta. Hate Atlanta. When Sherman, it's the only thing Sherman did that was nice. He should have let the place burn. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. And it's chaos, and I'm in a hotel room with him, and I was like, I really love y'all. I'm glad I'm with y'all, but y'all annoy the crap out of me when we're here. It's one of those where when you're away from them, it's like, dang, I really, it's like coming up here. I come up here alone, and it's like, and then you get back and I was like, all right, y'all can annoy me now. You miss them. And, I don't care how much you love what you do, that happens. If you got a heart and a soul anyway. So what you said earlier, see, it's a young man's game. Do it, enjoy it while you're single. It's a lot easier. When you made that shift at that point, what were you thinking? Did you have a plan, or kind of like, let's see, because you got a lot on your plate at that point. You're shifting gears from doing something you've been doing for a while, and then, you've got some, illness you're dealing with, the uncertainty of that. What are you thinking at that point? And you still love to fish.
Yeah. So, once again, God put a burden on me, and I don't want to say a burden, but he just kept pushing something that he wanted me to help others. I kept feeling this need to help others. And I remember it to this day. I was talking to one of my best friends, and I wanted to start a YouTube channel, because at that time that was about the best platform there was, and I still believe the best platform. And I wanted to start sharing videos and helping people, and I was struggling with it because I still had that competitiveness in me, of not wanting to share secrets because I could still win. And I was talking to him, and I was on the phone. And I was like, man, I don't know what to do. And he said, it's easy, Souders. He said, you got two choices. He said, do you want to help people, or do you want to win tournaments? I said, I want to help people. He said, well, then get over it and just go fishing and show people. And he said, you got a knack to talk. And he said, you need to use it. And I said, you know what? You're right. So I started doing seminars and YouTube and sharing my story and sharing information. And it's, I'm a little, not as, how do you put this? Well, I'll tell you how to put it. A good friend of mine said whenever he wants to put his daughter to sleep at night, he puts on one of my videos.
I had a lady come up to me at the conference one time, and her husband's dragging behind her, and she said, I go to sleep every night listening to your voice. And I was like, this is awkward. She goes, because he's got it playing over there, and it puts me to sleep. And I was like, oh, okay, that's good. That's okay.
Makes you feel real good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there is something to that. And what you were saying earlier about helping people. One thing you probably learned in this space that we're in with, the access we have to people's lives is that I think the biggest way you help people has nothing to do with fishing a lot of times, to be perfectly honest. And again, any of you future YouTubers out there that are thinking about wanting to do it, what you're planning to do and who you reach and how you reach them might be a little different than, just teaching them how to tie a fishing knot. That's great, but there's other stuff out there too. How's that journey? You got into a TV show for a while. That was somewhere along in that same time space. How has all that been for you? I ain't going to say healing. It's kind of healing, but healing the wound of leaving the tournament world and that type of fishing, but still enjoying the sport.
Yeah. So when I can't remember exactly what year it was, we started doing the TV show, and that was a huge opportunity for me. I really, really enjoyed it. Got to meet a lot of people, go to a lot of different places. I mean, I even come out your way and done some fishing, and just all over the country. It filled a void there, but in all reality, it was something I wish I would have done sooner. Nothing against the tournament trail or doing the tournaments, but I had a calling to do something else before and didn't listen to it, and I wish I would have done it sooner. The TV show was great, but I was doing YouTube before the show, and then that's kind of how they found me and wanted me to become the host of that show. I wish that I would have kept focusing on YouTube because I feel like the TV show was kind of going on a downhill. Even as good as it was, as good as the companies were, we just seen it.
It's hard to make TV work today.
It is.
Especially in the outdoor space. It's hard to do it.
And I was reaching more people on YouTube at that time. And unfortunately, I feel like my channel took a big hit because I put it on the back burner. And I feel like, and this is an apology to all of my fan base that watch my YouTube, because I feel like they felt like they got put on the back burner. And that, that hurt, because, there was folks that reached out to me that couldn't talk to their families about issues that they were having, because they knew that I wouldn't judge them, and I wouldn't hold judgment against them, and pray for them, help them. So, I feel like I made that mistake. As good as it was, I felt like that was selfless, or you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It was, I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
As much as I loved it, I shouldn't have done it, in a way.
So what's next are you looking at? I mean, are you going to expand on the YouTube stuff? Obviously I don't think you're going to go to TV path. Nobody wants to do TV anymore. And I mean, do you do it? I get people asking me this, whether you guide or not. Do you ever consider doing any of that out where you're at?
So we do guide. I don't book as many trips as, I could, just because, once again, when I book a trip, that's time away from my family.
Right.
And so I don't want to do that.
And how far do you have to go to fish from where you live to get to?
Oh, it's not far at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 35, 40 minutes.
Okay.
And I'm in good water.
Okay.
So, but it's river fishing, but I try not to do that. But here this year, something I've done is I've started bringing on guides to, they still guide under their name, but they guide under my umbrella.
Right.
I go out, I fish with them. Their credibility is through me.
Right.
And if they meet, I don't know, I'll say my criteria, but, I will book trips for them and help them grow, because I can give that to my fan base of saying, hey, here's a good, top-notch, high-quality guide that I trust to put you on big fish.
Yeah. How different is, you mentioned you're near a river. I'm 12 minutes from reservoirs. You fish both. You've had to fish both in tournaments. How different is that fishing?
Oh, it's completely different.
And which one do you like better, or
Ooh.
give me the comparison there?
The comparison is, in my eyes, eating. If I'm in a river, to me is the perfect piece of cheesecake with caramel icing. Going to a lake and fishing is like me trying to suck up ice cream through a straw on the floor. It just don't make sense. But I love current. Now there are some lakes that I really like, Kerr, Gaston, Wiley, even Watery. Those lakes are really good fisheries. But to me, if I can, I love to bump. I love to backdrift. I'm a very aggressive person by nature. And if I can aggressively put that to work, that's what I like to do. Going out and sitting on anchor and waiting for a fish to come to me is like driving nails into my feet. It just kills me. Or sitting on dragging to me is better than anchoring. But when I want to be so pinpoint on stuff that when those blue cats get out and they on those mud flats and they're just roaming, it drives me crazy, because you got to cover so much water, to where if you put a little bit of current on those fish, man, it cuts that down. And now I can keep my lines closer and I can just smack them. And that's what I like to do. I don't care if it's a 10-pound fish or, I'll take that back. I do care if it's a big fish or small fish, but if I can put fish in a boat consistently, that's what I like.
It's so funny because I'm totally, but I fish on a reservoir primarily. I wish, because I get questions, a lot of people that are getting questions about river fishing, I actually point them to your channel, because our river fishing is really more tail race. You're in between a dam and a lake, and it's usually a short run. So, and we don't have constant flow. You know how it is on the reservoirs. You get releases, and especially on the Catawba chain, it's sporadic. It's rare that you get. And it's a totally different dynamic where you have a river that flows all the time versus a river that flows some of the time. And even though the rivers, they got current, the fish behave differently in that. And it's why I've never learned to bump, because it's almost impractical to do it or take the time to do it, because you don't know when the water's coming on. Maybe you can go out there in some flood stages, but you got current then, but then you got trees and limbs and everything else. It just becomes a exercise in futility when you got stuff all over your line and leaves and everything else. So it's hard to do. What was, when you were doing the tournament stuff, how did you do when you were forced to fish a lake? And what did you do?
So you just got to adapt, I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I first started fishing lakes, man, I got my butt whooped. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I can remember a tournament very well that I went to, Wheeler Lake, and you know this just as well as anybody. When you fish a lake, those fish are apt to move in a heartbeat. Where if they're on current, they're more consistent. And we were on fish all week, had them dialed in. And come tournament day, we went back out there. They was gone, and we could not find them. And I lost my focus. And instead of doing what I know to do and just put my head into the sonar and find what I know to look for, I just went and fished just meaninglessly. And in a tournament, you can't do that. You got to be precise on what you're doing to be at the top. And it proved that day, because I had to weigh in 2 5-pound blue cats on a lake that produces 100-pound blue cats on a regular basis. And, so doing something, what I would do different is you just got to adapt to what lakes are. And as much as I may not like anchoring in a stump field or now I do like anchoring in shallow. Now that does get exciting, because those fish are only up there for one reason. But
and they blow up when they hit the bait. They can't go down, they go left or right.
Yeah. When you pull into a stump field or into a shallow bay, whether it's pea gravel or sand or mud or whatever it may be, and you're looking 25, 30 yards in front of the boat, and you see that little fin scooting, that little V scooting across the side.
There, yeah.
Oh, that gets me excited.
Yeah.
But you just got to adapt. You gotta do what it takes to win, no matter what you like, no matter how much you dislike it. If it's dragging, you got to drag.
That's the one thing I don't miss. You brought that up about fishing aimlessly. You don't get to do that in a tournament. You got to go do something that has the potential to work. And usually that means you've got to mark some fish to do it. Whereas somebody calls me and says, hey, I can't make this morning's guide trip, I'm sick, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I can go out and fish aimlessly. And sometimes you can find some really, really good stuff, pockets of fish doing that. You can discover some stuff. That's one of the things when people ask me, why don't you fish tournaments anymore? It's like freedom is the bottom line. Freedom. I start when I want to. I finish when I want to. And then I ain't got a whole bunch of stuff to do after I'm done fishing with going and weighing fish in and putting them back in the lake. So that's interesting. You said earlier it was a release. Do you still feel that relief, unburdened of doing the tournament world, the trail? Because when you do a points thing, that's another thing. I did that a couple times, and I don't have the time to fish, because you have to fish every tournament. It's so competitive. You have to literally be at every one of them to stand a chance. Is it nice to not have that burden of having to be there for that?
Yeah, and in today's world, the tournament trails have gotten so. We use King Cat as an example. It's went through its trial and errors, over the last few years. But there are so many single tournaments that are just absolutely mind-blowing money. Last year the Madison Gales won $100,000 in one single tournament. That's unbelievable, especially in the catfishing. And it is, in my eyes, this year we'll be going to Vicksburg. we're going to take a week, just me and a couple buddies, and we're going to go. We get to break down some water, have fun fishing during the week, and then we get to compete in one tournament, and we're done. You know, so that's kind of where I went with it, and I'll be able to film and, you know, make content and share stuff on social media throughout our time and enjoy it. Spend time with a couple good friends and still compete a little bit, you know. So I do I do that, and I'm also doing a couple benefits. Like, I really like to help veterans. I always tell people, look, I didn't have the cojones to go and fight for this country, so the least I can do is give somebody a release day to come fishing, you know, for what they've done for me and my, you know, in this country. So I try to do veterans fishing days, you know, fishing with nets, DVO, things like that. And then I also, with everything that's happened with Jenny, I got a soft spot with cancer benefit tournaments and things.
Yeah.
So I do a couple of those every year.
Yeah. Do you think tournaments? Because I've talked about this. It seems like it's kind of a stagnant kind of. I mean, it's not getting any bigger. It's not getting, I don't think, any smaller. Is the format of bringing in 3 fish, 4 fish, 2 fish, whatever, is it antiquated? Does it need to be changed? Is there a better way? Do you think there's a way to take it to another level? Do we need to take it to another level?
That's a good question, Dieter. And, you know, and I'm gonna lay it out here, because there needs to be change. You know, we hear it all the time. We want to make the catfishing world bigger, and I would love to see it bigger. It needs to be professional, and the, you know, Cabela's or King Cat, they do a good job, but with social media and content and influencing the way it is today, you know, companies don't need us to promote them at national fishing tournaments. It's just the way it is. They can
They
can
need
throw
you to promote them in your videos and your
Yeah.
content that's seen by 20 times as many people as will see that tournament.
So one of the things that I believe, if they want to see the sport grow, is we have to, as a industry, build, you know, certain, and I'm not saying that we need to choose you, Dieter Melhorn, we're going to sink $100,000 into you and build you to a national, you know, guy, but we need that Kevin Van Dam and Mike Iaconelli's and people like that in this industry, and we have to help push them to a new level.
You need a hero.
Yeah,
You need an Earnhardt. You need a Tom Brady. You need a somebody. Yeah.
because there's 100,000 influencers on social media, and I think that as a industry, we need to come together. No matter who you support, no matter what you support, cut the drama. Cut the, I don't like Dieter because he does nothing but drama, or I don't like so-and-so because he, you know, supports this company. I truly love each and every company out there. I have no ill feelings towards anybody. I got companies that I have confidence in, and I think as an industry we need to do that. That's the only way we can jump that hurdle, because we're at that hurdle. I truly believe, like, this is the platform, and if we want to raise that platform, then we got to do it as an industry. If you look back at the way, you know, Bill Dance was made, if you look back at the way Kevin Van Dam, Mike Iaconelli, whoever in any sport that was out there, how that person was made, it was with the industry involved, you know. And I think we got to follow those footsteps. It's tried and true, and it works.
The everything has in fishing. There's I use the word brand for when I say the bass fishing brand. Immediately something came to your head. You probably saw some guys in nice jerseys, wrap boats, pulled behind a Toyota Tundra pickup. Probably got a flat bill hat on. I didn't see any flat bill Slunger Cat stuff. But
No, I'm not the.
We'll talk about that.
I'm not the flat bill guy.
You know, you talk about, you know, NASCAR. There's gonna be an identity that comes with that. There's an identity that comes with catfishing. There's and it's kind of different, I believe, from people that kind of are into it and people that are outside of it. Can that be? And it's not all good. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat it. There's a lot of negativity that I say negativity. There is not the vision that the insiders have because we love it, we enjoy it, we see all the good things in it. We love the big fish. From a different perspective, a travel and tourism somebody that knows nothing about it, you know, they're going to have the perspective of it's a trash fish. You know, if you're on the James River, aren't we trying to get, why do you want our money for a tournament? Aren't we trying to get rid of those things because they're eating all the blue crabs? You know, can that brand, that identity be shifted? And does it need to be shifted? Or do we just live with what we got and embrace it? And it's kind of like with NASCAR. You know, there's a lot of people say NASCAR should have quit catering to the wine and cheese crowd back in the early 2000s when they got some interest in it all of a sudden and stuck to the roots. Does catfishing need to do the same thing? Can it? But how much is that going to hinder getting bigger and growing?
Oh, it needs to.
I know it's a big question, but.
So I'm 100% that person that I never stop putting one foot in front of the other. And I think the day that you stop, you die, you know. So 100% I think it needs to be. I think it can. And I think it starts by showing professional numbers. Instead of going to these places, if you are and I'm going to put this out there, if you're a young influencer, don't go to a company expecting what they can do for you. Go to them with a professional look of what you have done, what you're projected to do, and a plan for that specific company. And everything is a company. Even though it's a brand, it's a company. So the tourism is a company. Every company has to have inflow and outflow. If it doesn't have the inflow, it can't have the outflow. So if as a brand, you know, as an industry, we need to go to these companies and say, look, the catfishing industry is pushing out 1 billion views a day or 1 billion views a month, whatever that may be. This is what we're projected. This is what we think we can do for you, and this is what we have done for other companies. We have put, here at the Catfish Conference, there are 50, 60, 70 companies, however many is here, I don't know, that were not in business 3 years ago. We are projected to have this many companies in the future. And I think that would, in turn, change people's perspective. Yes, they may look at it as a trash fish, but those people are truly going somewhere and professional and want to make things better, not just in their industry, but in the country, in our community, in our daily lives. And I think that's how, we can make it jump, and change that perspective of what people think about us.
Yeah. Why did you get a white jersey? That's going to look so dirty when you get slime on it.
I don't fish tournaments no more.
In closing, tell everybody about Slunger Cats. I got a hat.
Yeah.
I got a nice. I wore it all weekend too. And his comment was, "Hey, I got something for you. We got some hats that are too big for most people's heads, and it fits my head perfectly. It's like my black Nike dry fit hats. I wear those hats and I actually color out the logo because they don't pay me anything. And but it just fits my melon head. So tell me about Slunger. You got a booth here set up at Catfish Conference. Yeah. You got a bunch of hats and a bunch of stuff. What all you got? Rigs. Yeah. And tell everybody where they go to find all that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to nickname that the Hoghead hat.
A Hoghead hat. There we
you
go.
Like it?
Thank you. I like it.
You're welcome. But, yeah, Slunger Cat Outdoors, we got a booth here at Catfish Conference. It has been a great weekend. We're just getting day 2 started. But selling all of our pre-tied and terminal tackle rigs, apparel, some signature series stuff that I used when I was tournament fishing, I have now brought to the market once again just to help people be more successful. I try to keep it basic. I don't do a lot of fancy colors, bright things. I truly believe that less is more in some cases, and that's these are proven rigs and proven things that I sell to help folks. And a lot of people, they may not know how to tie a double hook Kentucky rig, so they'll come and buy one, take a look at it, learn how, and even come to the booth. I'll teach you because I want you. Even if you don't buy something, I still want to help you learn. So whether it's bumping, drifting, dragging, we have specialty rigs specific for that.
Are you selling the mugs too?
Yeah,
Look at
definitely.
that. There you go.
Got
Where do they go to find all this stuff?
SlungerCatOutdoors.com is the website. If you're interested in a trip, I book trips now for perch, walleye, and catfish. I've got 3 other guides that work for me, so I can cover Lake Erie, the High River, Tennessee River, and hopefully soon the Mississippi and James.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
That's some covers.
Yeah.
That's some covers.
And we also do the academy classes where it's an 8-hour full-on, hands-on day specific to what they want to learn, whether it be learning to read sonar, 'cause that's a big one for me. People don't know, what they're looking at. So spend, days out looking at sonar, catching bait, dragging, drifting, whatever it may be. It's hands-on, 100%, everything included. Go out, teach you how to do it, and be successful.
Dude, thanks for sitting down.
Oh,
Appreciate it,
absolutely.
buddy. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Well, there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed this one as much as I enjoyed sitting down and talking with them. Some very good information, ideas, thoughts, perspective on things, and I think he was very honest and open about a lot of stuff. And I hope this continues with him. Like I said, I think this helps you, the viewer, connect with him more, and it endears you to his brand and everything he's got. Like I said, I'll put a link to Slunger Cats, Chris Souders, and everything he's got going on down in the comment section where you can check it out. So appreciate you listening. We'll catch you guys out on the water.